So you know what the ketogenic diet is, and you may even have some really good reasons why you want to start it. But now what? This video is the first in a two-part series that's going to focus on things that you need to be aware of before you start your ketogenic journey. And today's is probably the most important out of all of them, and that's mindset. Starting a new lifestyle change like this, going completely different than what you're used to, can be a recipe for disaster unless you got your mind right. And so today I'm going to cover some tips that's going to help you get your mind all squared away before you start your ketogenic journey. Coming up next on Pursuit for Better. If you're new to my channel, I'd like to encourage you after this video to head over to my channel and consider subscribing. If you do subscribe, make sure you click that little bell icon so that you make sure and get notified anytime I put any new content out. I'd also appreciate it if you would drop a like on this video and then consider commenting down below. Whether that's about the content itself or maybe you have a question, I would love to engage with you about that and answer any questions that you might have. One last thing. If you are new to the ketogenic diet or you need some reasons why you should maybe consider it, I'm going to put some links down in the description below on some other video content that I've made that'll help you out. So let's dive in to the things that you need to know before you start your ketogenic journey. The first thing that you need to be aware of, and this is probably the most important thing across the board, and you're going to hear me talk about this in other videos, is mindset. You have got to get your mind right before you jump in and start a whole new lifestyle change. This is probably the biggest thing to keep in mind or to consider if you want to be successful. You need to figure out why you're doing this. Now, it's perfectly fine to have some motivation on maybe, hey, I want to do this for a spouse, or I want to do this for my children, or I want to be healthy for some other reason like that. But you have to be the one to make the decision for you. In fact, I'll say this, if it's not mainly for you, the chances of you succeeding down the road become less and less and less. You have to want to get healthy, or you have to want to lose weight, or you have to want to combat whatever disease or condition you might be trying to fight. You have to make that decision for you. Again, it's fine to have motivation in others, but again, I'm just saying, I know that when I woke up that first day and said, I have to do this, it was because I looked inside and I tried to lose weight for family members before and you know, they didn't ask me to. It wasn't anything like that. It's like, I want to do this for my wife. I want to do this for my kids. But the bottom line for me is I had to wake up that one morning, and I'll never forget it, and just say, I'm tired of feeling like this. I need to make a change. So another part of figuring out why you're doing this is figuring out what is your ultimate goal. Is it just simply overall health? Maybe it is to lose weight, or as I mentioned before, maybe you're trying to fight or combat a specific condition like type 2 diabetes or high blood pressure or something else. You have to figure out what is your ultimate goal before you dive into this. Having this ultimate goal is the one thing that you really have to hang on to, because eventually over time we all begin to lose motivation, and having that ultimate goal in mind is going to help keep you going and going and going. Another part of figuring this out is this a short-term or a long-term goal for you? Those that tend to focus on the short term can really get discouraged when things don't necessarily go the way that they were hoping that they would, or things aren't going along as quickly as they thought they should, or something else along those lines. The other thing that happens if you're beginning to look short-term or over the short-term goal is that so many times, and I've seen this happen over and over again, where people will finally reach a goal, and then it's like they celebrate by, hey, I've lost 50 pounds, I'm going to go eat a box of Twinkies to celebrate. And you go right back into the same habits and things that you were doing before that got you into the place that you were in to begin with. Those that are focusing on the long term, they look at this as more of a journey than looking at it purely from the lens of the destination. They appreciate the journey more than just simply looking at the end goal. They're much more apt to listen to their bodies along the way and make adjustments, because they know at the end of the day it's not about how they feel or how they look or what the scale says next week or next month, but it's what's happening next year and the year after that and maybe 5 years down the road. And yes, they have a goal, but they're focused on what choices can I make right now to be healthy right now. So yes, having a goal is great, but again, I want to focus on what's happening right now, because at the end of the day, I care about what happens way down the road. Getting back into the next point in regards to mindset, and again, I'm going to kind of probably hammer this home a little bit because mindset is so incredibly important, and a part of that is knowing that the beginning is always the hardest part. If you're a heavy carb, sugar eater like I was for years, you are going to go through some sort of a detox. Your body is going to say, whoa, what is going on here? And it's going to be trying to fiend for the things that you've been feeding it for perhaps, like in my case, years and years and years. You need to understand that in these early phases, temptation is going to be high. As your body is coming down off of all these sugars and carbs and things that you've been giving it, it's going to crave it. And in some cases, it's just habit. Maybe it's a certain time of day or a certain mood or whatever that you've constantly fed it these carbs, but your body is going to begin to detox. And over those first couple of weeks, it's going to be really hard. The temptation is going to be there. So trying to stay away from, if you always would go down a certain aisle at the store and pull, tons of sweets and sugars and cookies and all this kind of stuff off of the shelf, it's usually best for those couple of weeks to avoid that. In fact, one of the best things you could probably do would be to just shop online, whether it's Amazon Fresh or something else that you use to have groceries delivered to your house. You don't have to go up and down the aisles. You can order the groceries that you have or that you want right in front of you, and you don't have to worry about the temptation. It will really, really help as your body is beginning to come off of all the stuff that you've been feeding it. The next thing, again, in regards to mindset and this whole beginning aspect, is be prepared for the keto flu. Now, this doesn't always affect everybody. In fact, I had it just a little bit. I had a couple of days where I wasn't feeling really well. But be prepared. It is something that you need to watch out for. Essentially what this is as your body is coming down off of all of this junk and all this glucose and carbs and everything else, your body can begin to feel symptoms very, very flu-like. You can start to headache, fever, chills, vomiting, diarrhea. Those are extreme cases. I don't know if I've ever known anybody that's gotten to that extreme when it comes to the keto flu, but it is a possibility. You just need to, again, when we're talking about mindset here, be prepared that could be something that affects you. Now again, while the keto flu may be seen as being somewhat normal, whether it affects you or not will remain to be seen, but if it does, there are some things that you can do to help kind of mitigate the symptoms and in some cases possibly even avoid it altogether. The first things that I'll suggest is to hydrate. Make sure you're drinking lots of water. The way this works is, and I'll try to just give a real brief explanation here, is that for every gram or every molecule of carbohydrates or glucose in your body will hold on to, or that gram will hold on to, I think it's like 8 or 9 molecules of water, whereas fat, it's only 1 or 2. And so what happens is in that beginning phases, as your body is shedding all of this extra glucose and carbohydrates, your body will shed a lot of water weight right off the get-go. In fact, there are people that have lost 5 or 10 pounds right in that first week. Keep in mind, it's not fat, it's pretty much water weight, but you're going to be losing a lot of water, and so you have to be able to stay hydrated to replenish that. Now, on the flip side of that, you're going to really need to make sure that you watch your electrolytes. This is something that this is kind of a double-edged sword here for a minute. You got to really, really hydrate, but you're getting rid of a lot of water, so you have to also watch your electrolytes. You're getting rid of, through your urine, you're getting rid of a whole lot of minerals and things like potassium and all this stuff. You're urinating all that stuff out at a much higher level because you are shedding a lot of water. You're bringing in a lot of water, but you're not bringing in a lot of those nutrients. And so electrolytes are going to be huge. And in fact, most people's symptoms when it comes to the keto flu is due to a drop in their electrolytes. And so I would encourage you, hop online or go over to a health food store or something and pick up a dedicated, container of electrolytes that you can mix up, stir up, and drink. And be generous with that, because here again, you're going to really need to replenish those minerals that you are getting rid of out of your body. Another thing you can do to help avoid the keto flu is getting rest. Again, keep in mind, this is really, again, it's not to the level of a drug detox, but your body is in some ways, in how it's looked at sugar and carbs and everything else, it is detoxing in similar fashions. And so your body's going to need to rest. It's going to need to recover. That's when the cell rehabilitation and your body begins to kind of heal itself, is during those times of rest. And so I'm going to encourage you, really, get as much rest as you can. Just kind of plan for it. Maybe go to bed earlier than what you're used to. Depending on your work situation, you may have to just plan on going to bed earlier. But for those first couple of weeks, it's really going to be really, really important that you do everything you can to get as much rest as possible. And one other kind of trick about the keto flu is bone broth. Bone broth is something that you're going to hear a lot about when you start getting into keto. But bone broth with a little bit of added salt really does wonders. Not only does it help with your stomach, but it's just good for you overall. It's really something good I would encourage you to do as well. All of these things together can help you avoid or at least knock the symptoms down when it comes to the keto flu. Again, like I said, you want to prepare for at least a couple, 2 to 3 weeks of some challenges and things that are ahead, whether it's temptations or just not feeling right, or maybe you're going to start experiencing leg cramps because you're getting rid of all these minerals. Potassium is something you can really take and want to make sure you're taking extra of, or eating foods that are high in potassium. But those are things that you're going to need to be prepared for, at least for those first couple of weeks. Again, we're talking about getting your mind right and getting your mind ready for this journey you're about to take. Now, the great thing about this is you really shouldn't have to worry too much about being hungry. And so that is one of the things you can kind of mark off your list of things to worry about. Because again, as you start into keto and you start eating these meals that are high in healthy fats, they're very satiating and they keep you going for a long time. Kind of the last little piece I want to touch on here real quick in regards to mindset is I don't want you to feel like you have to go out there and just do, work out 6 days a week, 5 hours a day or anything else. And in fact, what's really, me even call me crazy when I say this, exercise really needs to kind of take a back seat to what you're eating. I think I heard somebody say at one point in time that exercise is going to only account for anywhere between 5 and 10% of the overall weight loss and overall health that you feel in your body overall. And if it's only going to account for that small amount, then it's not something that we need to elevate to some unhealthy level. As I said a minute ago, if you do end up feeling some symptoms of the keto flu, first off, you're just not going to really feel like it. You're just going to be feeling kind of blah, and you're just going to want to kind of take it easy. But as I said before, I actually went through several phases where I didn't exercise. In fact, there was one point for 2 months, and I still lost well over 20 pounds. Exercise is certainly important. I'm not trying to discount exercise. It's good just for your overall health and well-being. It's good for muscle tone. It's just good for a lot of things. But in these early phases, I don't want you to elevate exercise to be this thing that you just feel like if you miss a workout that you're all of a sudden have to kind of freak out. One of the mindset changes that I had to do within myself was I always equated exercise with how I ate. And so if I exercised really hard, I would eat really good. And the minute that I stopped exercising, all of a sudden I was just going back to eating the way I was. I had to flip a switch to say, no, I'm going to eat this way no matter what. Whether I exercise or not, whether I get enough sleep or not, it doesn't matter. I'm going to eat this certain way, and then exercise can come a little bit later. So as I said in the beginning, having the right mindset can be the difference between whether you achieve the goals that you want to achieve or whether or not you end up kind of bailing halfway through. I hope that some of these tips helped you today as you get ready to start your journey. Know that I'm here to support you in any way that I can. And if you want to drop some comments below, I'd love to start a conversation with you. Be here to be a source of encouragement for you as you kind of start to go through your journey. I want to thank you for tuning in, and I will see you next time.